If you look out there in healthcare today, there's close to 800,000 pager devices still in use. And I've heard jokes. There's only really two types of people that use pagers today, doctors and drug dealers. More seriously, if you ask a doctor who has a pager, hey, why are you still carrying that pager? They're going to tell you a few things. The first thing they're going to say is, because it's reliable, it always works, and I get messages even when I can't get anything on my phone. And then they also say, look, I love the ability to separate from my job when I go home. And by having a separate phone number that's not my personal cell phone number, I can sort of keep work and my personal life separate. And then when they go off call, they can take that pager and physically hand it to another doctor. It's actually those things that the reason why I got into the industry was to solve those use cases using software. If you look at what we can do today, we have this service called a virtual pager. It's a phone number. It's separate than your personal phone number, but it's linked to an app that you load on, your smartphone device. And in that way, you turn your smartphone into a virtual pager. If you go back to the reasons why the doctors use these, so they want a separate number, okay? Well, with the virtual pager number, not only do they have a separate number, through our app, they can call a patient or another clinician back while hiding their personal number. And we can put the caller ID, for example, of the hospital or clinic. Instead of having to physically pass the pager off, a call schedule will actually automatically transition that doctor off call, and they're not going to get messages when they're not supposed to. And then the last thing, reliability. While using software, you're able to escalate. If I don't get a message, I can actually, from our software, call the doctor at home on their home line or call the backup doctor. So it makes the paging service ultra reliable. You're not going to get the messages or calls, not just messages, but phone calls when you're not supposed to. We have a saying here at PerfectServe, get the right message to the right provider at the right time. And at the right time is really important. If it's urgent, it has to get there quickly. But when we say at the right time, we also mean it shouldn't be waking that physician up, for example, in the middle of the night when they're not working. When you have a pager, every message sounds the same and acts the same. A page is a page. If you're using a purpose-built app, a low priority message sounds distinct. It might not even give an audio alert, it might just vibrate. It's in your pocket. Whereas a critical alert, for example, if patient care is needed, for a patient in an acute situation, it will be more aggressive and get your attention. And so going back to alert fatigue, when you have a pager, all alerts are alerts. You don't know if it's urgent, non-urgent, and you have to respond. But if you're using our purpose-built apps, you know right away. The other thing is that a pager is limited to 140 characters. And if you're using an app, right, you get much more context. With our integration with the health record, you actually get the full patient context as well, linked with the message itself. So it saves you a ton of time having to figure things out, look up in the EHR. So your message is contextualized, which saves you a lot of time as a doctor. One of the things back in the day where the pager used to win out was, this little hardware switch on your phone. If you hit that to mute, you're not going to hear anything on your iPhone. So what we actually did is we have permission with both Apple and Google to override that setting for something super urgent. So at the end of the day, if a doctor doesn't want to be reached for routine work stuff or phone calls or emails, they can go ahead and toggle that off. But if it's a time-sensitive message that they're supposed to be getting, for example, because they're on call, it's going to push through that hardware setting. And our software is quite unique in the way we do that. Doctors have enough going on. They've got a larger burden today than they have ever before, right? We've got an overwhelming demand on the healthcare system. So the last thing they need to be doing is picking up their phones when they shouldn't have to be looking at messages. That's something that is sort of in the core DNA of PerfectServe. And it's the reason why we do what we do, is to help give time back to doctors for their personal time and also care for patients. And of course, that applies not just to physicians, but the entire care team, nurses, and so on.